Thanks, Jim. Well, my name is Katie Kimball, and last year I became certified as a Stress Mastery Educator, partly because I knew the world and my audience needed it, and partly because I needed it. I live a really healthy lifestyle, but I realized that if I didn't get sleep more and learn to figure out how to master my stress, I was probably going to end up eating really healthy food and with a stress-induced disease of some sort. 80% of doctor visits, even before all this happened, were due to stress. So we know it's an issue in America. And I feel like, there's definitely never been a better time and a more important time to talk about stress. So I'm a mom of 4. My kids range in age from 5 to 14. We got kindergarten, we got freshmen in high school, and everywhere in between. And even though I've worked at home for the last 10 years, and my husband and I both work at home in the same office for the last 5 years, this is still kind of flipping things on its head. There are some new strategies needed because it's kind of like summer, but I wasn't ready with reduced goals and reduced workload like I am when summer, when I actually know summer's coming. So I want to talk about to parents out there how this juggling act is hard. That's for sure. We got to start there by just acknowledging the fact that this is not easy. This is a big challenge for people, and it's okay if it feels hard. It's okay to talk about it being hard. But there are some really powerful strategies that you can employ in just a few minutes a day to help recharge your system and refill your tank. So when we think about a cell phone, I know people get really stressed out if they see that percentage battery get low. Everyone's got a different threshold. Some people get it down to 3%, and others are like, oh my gosh, 3%, I would die. We plug in our phones, right? We recharge them. And our bodies, our minds, our systems need that same sort of recharge. We're really designed as humans to oscillate up and down. We breathe in, we breathe out. We have awake times, we have sleep times, we have eating times, we have fasting times. And yet we try to live our lives in a flat line. We get up and we go and we just work really hard and we go to the end, and then we fall into bed exhausted and can't fall asleep because we're too jazzed up, right? So this is about retaining or reclaiming some of that oscillation in your day, even when it's crazy, even if you've got kids and a dog barking in the background and parents trying to work at the kitchen table and it just feels out of control. This is about getting you back in control. And I love that Joe mentioned the word freeze. He used it a couple times. Sometimes crazy things happen, and a situation comes up and you just freeze because you don't know what to do. And that's actually one of the 6 stress reactions, is to freeze up. Fight or flight is kind of the common stress reaction duo people talk about, but freeze is one of them too. So I want to start by just talking about the stress mastery definition of stress. I think all of us would define it differently. Some of us might talk about how we feel when we are stressed out. Some of us might talk about the things coming at us that cause us stress. But in reality, what stress is the balance between those two. Stress is what happens in the gap between your demand and your capacity. So if you think about your demand, that's what's coming at you. That's what's being asked of you every single day. And your capacity is the energy and the mental capacity that you have to bring to that day, right? And so when you think about, that's where stress happens, is when there's a gap, when you have too much demand and not enough capacity. So for example, if you get a really good night's sleep and you get up and you get your coffee and you spill it all over the counter, it might be a blip in your day. You just clean it up and you move on. But if you get a really bad night's sleep and the first thing you hear is a face in your face saying, "What's for breakfast?" And also, "My brother just hit me in the face." And you're coming down the stairs and maybe you have an ache in your shoulder, and all of that kind of piles up. And then you spill your coffee, you might be in a puddle on the ground with that coffee because you just can't handle it. Same situation, different capacity. So that's where if we can work with that sort of academic definition of stress, we can see that we can either decrease our demand to reduce our stress, or, and here's where stress mastery is awesome, we can increase our capacity. In the past, stress management techniques often talk about decreasing that demand. Dude, we are not always in charge of what's being asked of us. We have bosses. We have a coronavirus. We have a pandemic. We have a quarantine. We can't change that. We can't change what our kids' schools are asking us to do. So the demand is often kind of fixed. And so it's up to us to figure out new strategies that we'll talk about in the next couple minutes here to increase your capacity so that that gap is smaller and you feel stress in a less negative way. This is all about being energized by stress, which sounds kind of crazy, but it's also a message of hope, right? And you guys, I mean, if you are business people, if you're in, you have a job and you're working at home all of a sudden and you're feeling all of this stress, I bet you've had a situation where you have used stress as fuel, right? When you have a deadline, when you have a project that is like really big and needs to be done, or people are counting on you, shoot, sometimes just making dinner on time, you can use stress for good. You feel that stress of like, whoa, I have this big demand and I need to increase my capacity. It can fuel you forward, right? To get your work done faster and be more excited about it. That's what we want to do, is teach you how to make all of your stressors into fuel for good. It's about kind of filling your bucket faster than it empties, right? If you have a bucket of capacity, sometimes people are poking holes in the bottom of that doggone bucket and your energy is just draining out. So how can we plug those holes through positive strategies? How can we make sure we're keeping our bucket full but not too full, if that makes sense? So the really basics, and I mean, I have a whole 2-hour course on this, but in 15 minutes, the really basics of stress mastery is again about reclaiming that oscillation, finding times for rest during the day so that you can charge into your next activity or your next task on your list with more energy. Now, I'm not saying that for every hour you work, you have to take an hour to rest. Luckily, research shows that even 30 seconds, even half a minute, taking a little brain break, a little recharge break for your system can help you move into the next portion of your day with greater capacity. Thank God, right? That is good news. It doesn't have to be a half hour of prayer or meditation every 2 hours, right? 30 seconds can do it. Now, 5 to 10 minutes is better, but hey, I got 4 kids. We got like 2 businesses bouncing around in the same office. 30 seconds is going to have to do. We want to really build these habits of taking the breaks. Okay. We talk a lot about, in business, we have like proactive tasks that we do and we have reactive tasks that we do. And we want to make sure that we're not always just reactive. So it's important, even on a day when maybe you're not feeling super stressed, to build these breaks into your day, to be proactive about it and build a habit. That way, when something big crashes down and you do need to be like, oh my gosh, reactive to your stress, you need to react in the moment, like, I can't handle this, my stress is too big, how can I bring my capacity up? You're practiced. You have the habit. You have some skills and some strategies that you can call upon in that moment of high stress reactivity. If you don't have those habits, that moment of high stress reactivity, you probably are going to very quickly and very vehemently react with fight or flight or freeze or faint or tend or befriend. Those are the 6 stress reactions. And again, Joe talked about that like freeze sensation, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And I'm guessing in the last 2 to 3 weeks that a lot of us have had that sensation, particularly staring into a computer screen, particularly either when we've been asked to do something new and big, or when we've just read another doggone article about the coronavirus and how it's spreading. And we just kind of sit there and you just kind of stare. And you might even notice, oh my gosh, I've been holding my breath, which is foundational, by the way. Breath is foundational to our recharges. There's a 3-step stress mastery formula that unfortunately we don't have time in this presentation to really go into, but if you come visit me later, I can walk you through some of that. The 3-step formula is to assess your stress, appreciate it, and then adjust it. And we talk about your stress load, how much is being asked of you, your stress lens, kind of the way in which you see the world. Again, like the same thing can happen to one person and to another person, and they react totally differently. Their levels of stress are totally differently. That's your stress lens, your perception of the world, and your stress signature, how it shows up in your body. So for example, I have a stress mastery course for busy moms, and I got a text from someone in my course just yesterday saying, oh, this is so, like, I'm so inspired and this is exactly what I needed. However, it's really hard. Like, I know what happens. I know I'm going to get a tension headache. I know I'm going to lift my shoulders up. I know I'm going to start holding my breath, and then it's going to turn into a migraine. She's like, but I don't quite know how to stop it. Right? I know what happens, which is great. She's assessed what's going on. She hasn't appreciated yet and she hasn't adjusted. So the appreciate step, it seems weird, but it's important not to skip it. If you are feeling stress, if your demand is higher than your capacity, that means that you're important. That means you're doing good things. That means that people need you in the world. So it's really good and healthy for your mental state to take a break and say, you know what? The fact that I have so much that's being asked of me means that I'm important. Okay, well, that's pretty cool. How can I bring that, to the world and make that stress into fuel for good? That little tiny step, again, that was like what, 10, 15 seconds. It doesn't take long to appreciate yourselves, you guys. You are important people. If you are a parent and you have children, you are a very important person. If you're an employee and you still have a job, there is something important for you to do. And that's all connected. So appreciate, give yourself a little pat on the back. And then it's about adjusting. So for this mom she's getting the tension headache, she's lifting her shoulders, she's noticing she's kind of holding her breath, and then it's going to turn into a migraine. What a terrible feeling to be like, oh, now I'm going to get a migraine. She needs to figure out some strategies to circumvent that. Okay, so her stress signature, the way stress talks to her in her body, that tension headache it's a little bit of like waving a red flag, like, hey, your demand is increasing over your capacity. You need to do something, or else I'm going to be sending you a migraine. So her signature, her stress signs in her body are all very like inward. They're all very tense. They're very small. Me, I get kind of angry. I lash out in temper. So mine are very big and intense. And so that speaks to how we should recharge. If I have big and intense, I might need to go for a fast walk. I might need to go jump on the trampoline. I might need to do a load of dishes and just get something done. This other mom, hers are more internal. So she might need to get in nature. She might need to really do some breath work or write in a gratitude journal, things that are a little bit more low intensity, or do some yoga if movement is going to help her. But we need to circumvent those. We want to take at least 5 recharge breaks during the day. And so I'll talk about exactly what that looks like. But in general, if you are a busy parent, try really hard to start your day off, again, with at least 30 seconds of bringing focus, of priming your brain and your body for your day. Try to get at least 3 times during the day where, again, you take even if it's just 30 seconds and you walk away from your desk or your kitchen table or the living room where your kids are arguing, and you recharge. And that can be as simple as breathing intentionally for 1 minute. 3 times during the day. You can create a habit by hooking those recharge breaks onto other things that you actually still do during the day, a routine you actually still have, like maybe eating lunch, if that happens every day. I hope it does for your sake. Maybe taking a shower. I bet that's not happening every day for everybody though. So that one, maybe brushing your teeth. Let's hope we all brush our teeth at least once a day. You can connect the habit of a recharge break with a habit that you already have. You're more likely to stick with it that way. So at least 3 breaks during the day. And then at the end of the day, we want to prime our brains for sleep. We want to unplug. It's still called a recharge break, but you're just recharging your brain after a hard day and filling it with more calm thoughts. One thing my husband and I realized is that once we get in bed, we better stop talking about pandemics, viruses, and anything that is stressful, because we were not getting good sleep during this time. So that's, really practically, we knew that we had to create this safe boundary around our bedroom at bedtime, that we can't talk about that stuff. And I still catch myself like, oh, stop, we can't do that. But just, again, that's assessing, that's that knowledge of what is going to be harmful to your stress levels, to increase, you're increasing your demand when you talk about stressful things. So that's where you can reduce your demand by not talking about the stressful things. All right, now to increase your capacity, which is, again, so powerful, the fact that nothing can change about your situation, but you can feel less stressed if you just bring your own personal capacity up. What we want to do is plug into brain science. I am such a science geek. I love that I got to learn about the way the brain works. And so I'm going to teach you in like 1 or 2 minutes here. The brain processes everything that comes at you, whether it's a sound or a sight or information, from the bottom up in your brain. And the very bottom of the brain stem, is very primitive. It's pretty much all of a lizard has. So scientists call it your lizard brain. And your lizard brain has one job. It says all day long, am I safe? 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 It's like a toddler. And I'm sure some of you are like, oh my gosh, my toddler does that. He has the same question all day long. It's driving me nuts and my brain is exploding. Okay. Your lizard brain all day is saying, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And just like that toddler who is trying to make your brain explode, that lizard brain will not shut up until it's satisfied, and it won't let you use the rest of your brain, which you need, by the way, because we have more to do than lizards if we're working at home and parents. That lizard brain won't shut up until it feels safe. So how do we make that lizard brain feel safe? We're actually in control of that, and it has to do with our breath. Your breath controls your heart rate. Your heart rate being at a steady level tells your brain that you are safe. How cool is that? So all you need to do during this short, again, 30 seconds, 5 minutes is better, quick recharge break, is start with breath. And the perfect breath is about 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. That's a little slower than a normal breath. Watch. 3, 4, 5, still inhaling, and then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the exhale. A ninja hack is to exhale a little bit longer than you inhale. That will actually initiate your parasympathetic nervous system faster and get you down to that lower stress level. So just take a minute. You can put your hand on your heart. That's a good tactile clue to connect your heart with your brain, and do some slow breaths. That will tell your lizard brain to shut up because it feels safe. Good job. Now you can move your processing into your midbrain, which is often called the monkey brain, because monkeys are a little higher level animal than lizards. They are very more into community and emotions. Your middle brain is where your emotions are housed. The middle brain is pretty much saying one thing all day too. It says, am I loved? Am I loved? So lizard brain, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Breathes to shut it up. Midbrain says, am I loved? Am I connected? So to feel connected, even if you're by yourself, which is usually a pretty good place to do a recharge, you're going to want to think of something you're grateful for, something you appreciate. And if you can feel that gratitude, the kind of gratitude that like blossoms out in your heart, like when you see your 5-year-old reading words for the first time, or when you imagine, your 18-year-old walking across the stage, which won't happen, so maybe don't imagine this, graduating high school, those moments where your heart just goes, oh, and just blooms over with gratitude, that, again, science-backed, research proven, impacts our stress level. So take a moment, think about that person or that thing or that activity that you did today or yesterday that you're just like, oh, I'm so grateful for that. And that will satiate your monkey brain. Okay, that will satiate your monkey brain, and now you know you're loved and connected. And then here's where the power comes in. Now you can process using the upper part of your brain, which is your human brain. That's where your executive function happens. Your processing, your memory, your planning, your setting intentions, everything you need to do a good job at work. Now during this recharge, which my professor calls BFF, breathe, feel the gratitude, and then focus. We're going to focus on what we need to do in the next little portion of our day. And you can see how powerful this might be. Now, there's lots and lots of ways to recharge. And again, I've got a whole course on this, but for right now, I'm just going to toss a couple out at you. And you can see that some are higher intensity, like going for a run, listening to music, getting a good belly laugh, watching a hilarious YouTube video. And some are more low intensity, like prayer and meditation, working with a gratitude journal, that breath work that we just talked about, getting out in nature, hugging a pet, even being intentional with your time, eating lunch, or being with your kids, right? It's one thing to like go play a board game with your 6-year-old, but it's another thing to play a board game and not wish you were still at work. That's my challenge for you, is the next time you get to spend with your kids, don't wish you were still at work, just focus and be present. And that can be a recharge for your brain. We can teach our kids to do this breath work. We do this a lot at the beginning of meals, and that'll help us digest our food better. So I'm almost out of time, but I do just want to give a couple like quarantine friendly tips. Right now from 11:30 to 3 in Eastern time, I'm in my indistractable zone, which means that we've told our kids, if you have questions, dad and mom might both be working, but you go to dad, because mom has meetings. Mom is going to be getting her like really focused work done. So we call it, he's the parent and I'm the worker. We might both be working, but only one of us is allowed to be interrupted. If you don't do that, you know the children are going to go to the mom every single time. So mom, if you have focused work you need to do, you can say, I am indistractable. When I put on my headphones, you can wear a crown, and your kids need to understand that that's time where you can't be distracted. The other parent can be distracted. So that's just a super quick focus, but also I highly recommend that you do this with your kids. Teach them to breathe, teach them to practice that gratitude. That's actually the first day my kids' school was canceled. I said, we need a little bit of routine. I stink at organizing, I stink at routine, but I start out every morning and I tell my kids, good morning, what are 3 things you're grateful for? And that trains their brain to look for the positive in the day, because it's far too easy as human beings to see the negative all the time, right? So that's stress mastery in a very quick nutshell. Again, bringing your capacity up to meet the demands that are being asked of you by taking some breaks, by oscillating, by doing the breathe, feel, focus, BFF. And it only takes 30 seconds about 5 times a day. So I cannot wait to hear how this goes for you guys. And I'm Katie Kimball. I'm a stress mastery educator. I have a full course for busy moms about stress mastery at kitchenstewardship.com/stress. So again, lots of good ways and right ways to do this. And it only takes 30 seconds to 5 minutes.